Hmm. Hello? You're muted. Hello?
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Man, these computers at Humber, bro, they gotta replace some of these, bro.
Dang, you're at Humber? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Dang. How on earth did you discover me?
It's so funny actually. It was last year. I was at I was at home, right? I was bored out of my
Yeah.
mind. And I saw an interview that you did with Ruby
Yeah.
Barnes,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a YouTube account at the time. I wish I did because bro, that interview was so dope,
Appreciate it.
top to bottom. As a fellow Canadian, that was super cool to see. And you kind of like, because I run my own podcast, I sent you the link,
Yeah.
and that was that was something special, man.
Appreciate it.
So I got a lot of questions.
Sure, sure.
Um, what inspired you to like do this whole interview thing? Because it seems like you've been doing this for a while.
Correct. Past 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Wow. So was there like a moment in time? Because you're pretty young. You're 20. I'm 21. So
Right.
like, so was there like a moment in time you're like, okay, this is a lane I could like be really good in?
Sure. Yeah, so in online high school, I did online high school. We had a media class, and the class in question covered an array of subjects.
Yeah.
And when it came to the subjects, one of them was journalism,
Yeah.
and we had to interview someone. And at the time, I was heavily involved in a lot of communities online, um, around various YouTubers. Primarily at the time, I was a big fan of Mr. Beast, and
Oh
so
wow.
I decided, I was I was interested in journalism. I was interested in just Hollywood and movies. Like that's my forte. I love movies, and so
Yeah.
I decided to interview. The first interview I did was with the one of the editors from Mr. Beast. He was a good friend of mine, still is,
Oh
and we did that interview. It was just a simple interview, nothing crazy.
yeah.
But after that, I became very interested in doing it. And what I would do was I would primarily focus my efforts on getting people from YouTube world because that's what I primarily was used to. And I
Yeah.
hadn't really branded myself, but I did kind of come up with a name. I called it On the Mic.
Yeah.
For a couple episodes, it was known as On the Mic.
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, okay, I want to take this more seriously. There was a year of kind of a break.
Yeah.
But after that break, I began to pursue it further, focusing my efforts on getting people from Hollywood, so movies that I grew up with,
Yeah.
movies that people grew up with.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just it was a fun hobby, but it was a hobby that I took very seriously. So I spent a significant amount of time kind of building a name,
Yeah.
kind of putting effort into doing that because that's what's going to help get more interviews. If you enjoy doing interviews and you want to do
Yeah.
more interviews, you
Yeah.
have to significantly spend a lot of time preparing for those interviews.
Yes. Actually, that's the one question I want to ask.
Sure.
How did you get Ruby specifically? Because I remember I commented on your video on that interview, and you said you went on IMDb Pro, and like, how did you like? Did you just search her name up, and it's just her agent or whatever was available? Like, how did that come about?
I don't necessarily share specifically how I get different
Oh,
clients, people on the show, but
yeah,
how it works is with any guest,
yeah,
you have to spend a lot of time looking for your guest. And so IMDb Pro is a great resource if you're looking
yeah,
to get different guests on your show, just
yeah.
finding people that stand out to you and just contacting. And also being a reputable source. It's a lot of work, but it's great.
That's interesting. So, like that interview specifically with Ruby, like that was like almost 25 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Was it longer? How long? This is interesting. How long?
I'm not quite sure in the question that interview. That was one of many that year that I recorded. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it was a decently good conversation, that one. There was a lot of great conversations that
yeah,
stand out over the
yeah.
years that I've been able to have. It's being able to do interviews is great. You get to meet a lot of great people and you get to learn a lot um in having those conversations.
Okay. So, was there a interview that you did and you scrapped it because of whatever reason, or did
No,
that not happen?
never. There
Really?
was one interview that I did with the voice of Andy from Toy Story. That was years
Wow.
ago, and there was that was in a phase of production when I didn't have a Zoom subscription or anything like that, and so I had to use a different software.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a portion of that interview's audio was ruined, but it was still enough to be posted. But to answer your question, in my span of doing this, there has never been an interview that has been completely scrapped. There's been ones that have messed up, but we've recorded them again.
Yeah.
But besides that, no, nothing.
Oh, wow. So, do you still talk to some of your guests afterwards? Like, do you like you can just hit them up or whatever, or
When it comes to the interviews that I record specifically, um, almost all of them are just kind of like you sit down for an hour,
oh,
you ask the questions that you've prepared,
yeah,
and you have a great conversation, and you
yeah,
thank them for the time, you take a picture, you do that, and then you kind of part ways.
that,
And there might have been there's several guests that I've had on my show that I've built a relationship with that maybe extends beyond the Zoom.
oh,
But the idea isn't necessarily to build those relationships. It's to sit down, talk about their life in hopes, in my case, in hopes to educate people about
yeah,
the world of Hollywood. They're as
oh,
human as me and you. They just have a really cool career or have done
yeah,
something really cool.
yeah. That's super cool. That's super cool. So, what's your dream interview? Who's the person at the top? You're like, man, if I get this interview, bro, this about to blow up, man.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's been a lot of cool guests that weren't necessarily a dream. The one that comes to mind when you ask that was there was a music artist that I grew up with
Yeah,
by the name of Paufu, and he's done a lot of great songs.
yeah,
One of them was on blew up on TikTok
yes,
called Deathbed. And so he was a major influence when it came to other things in my life. I've been doing music for several years. I haven't released anything in a long time,
yeah,
but he he performed in a song with an artist that I've worked with before, and he collaborated with them. And
whoa,
he in one of his lyrics he said the word first world citizen, and I really liked that label, first world citizen. I didn't really know necessarily what it meant, but he
yeah,
he said that, and I wanted to kind of use that as my artist name, and I have since.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity to interview him and his father. It was a great conversation. And that was probably like a dream interview coming to life, even though it wasn't necessarily the biggest one I've always wanted to interview.
Yeah.
Just having that opportunity. There's other interviews that were not necessarily dream interviews that I didn't really think highly of, but became very important to me in the years on.
Okay. Okay. So, like, what's the goal? Like, do you want to become like the next Joe Rogan or Shannon Sharp with his Club Shay Shay stuff or whatever? Or are you in your own lane type of thing?
Yeah, when it comes to celebrity interviews, there probably was a time, if you spoke with me years ago, that I would have said, yes, I want to make this a full-time job and I want to be independent.
Yeah.
But we've hit a point in Canada where you can't really provide for yourself and with your
Yeah.
if you ever have a family with
Yeah.
journalism. It's near impossible. It's not impossible, but it's near impossible,
Yeah.
specifically with entertainment journalism.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've continued doing it. Just it's a great pastime, and I love it a lot. There's so many fun aspects of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I will ever become successful in that sense. I have not made any money. Surprisingly, I haven't made any money in the 5 years I've been doing my show at all. $0. I've spent more money than actually have made purchasing a yearly Zoom subscription, buying a mic, things like that.
Wow.
It's something that I love doing, but I don't think it will ever be famous or anything. It's kind of been helpful at least to make a portfolio
Yeah.
when you gain experience talking to people and you speak to
Yeah.
reputable names.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to have.
Yeah.
But some doors have opened in relation to it that have been great. I was invited to a TV show episode premiere in Toronto once for
Oh,
a TV show called Murdoch Mysteries.
wow.
It was a great time being invited there and got to talk to some of the crew. So
Yeah.
it's definitely opened some doors and I love it a lot. But I don't think it will, in my personal opinion, I don't think I'll ever become the next Joe Rogan. I prefer to stick behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I also, when the opportunity comes, it's fun to be the center of attention, but it's not necessarily the ultimate goal.
That's a brilliant answer. I mean, it's funny you say that journalism and specifically entertainment journalism doesn't pay anymore because like I'm at Humber, right? And I'm for like broadcast radio. I'm running around trying to complete my hours and stuff. And one of the biggest bombshells that's been sort of not really talked about is like how a lot of these radio stations are closing down. People are getting laid off. Whole programs getting ripped because nobody's enrolling, and it's just like whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like, and I was just wondering because the federal election is gonna come in a month, and Pierre has been talking about defunding the CBC, yada yada yada, and the CBC's bread and butter is not their news thing; it's their radio, right? They broadcast for millions of people across Canada and beyond, and like if he gets elected, and that could go away, which would essentially destroy everything. Like what, like that's just how I feel it, right?
Right.
So like,
Yeah, I know. It's challenging
yeah,
in Canada to do journalism. A major entertainment journalism company shut down,
yeah,
known as Entertainment Tonight,
wow,
a little bit ago. And so yeah, it's hard to pursue and provide with journalism. It definitely fits as a side freelance job.
yeah,
Um, I think you can pursue journalism, though I think you're better off pursuing political journalism,
yes,
because political journalism is what's going to stay. Entertainment journalism, unfortunately, is somewhat replaceable and not necessarily in demand.
yeah,
But it's a great pastime and it's a great thing to pursue, and it will lead to open doors. It does take time. And
Yeah,
who knows, one day somebody who does entertainment journalism can blow up. But you definitely have to invest a lot of time.
yeah,
Independence is the way to go. You mentioned Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's a great example. He has his own independent show, and so he invests a lot of his money, his
yeah,
time. So in doing that, you definitely have to invest a lot of your money and your time. You've got to learn how to ask good questions. You have to do a lot of research, because whenever you interview someone, at least in my experience, research is really, really key. I
yeah,
try to spend roughly around an hour and a half, maybe more, and even days, doing research on different guests,
yeah,
because it really helps with the conversation. It leads to a lot of great points.
yeah,
There's a lot of time and effort, and it
yeah.
just depends on if you want to pursue that or not.
It's interesting you said that because I have an interview with this guy at Jazz FM. I don't know where you at. Where do you live again?
I live here in Ontario. I don't. I try my best not to tell people
Uh,
exactly. I keep it pretty hush hush.
all right. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But like, I live in Mississauga, Port Credit, right?
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stations is Jazz FM.
Hmm.
There's this guy that usually shows up, right? He's this musician. I forgot his name, but like, I asked him for an interview, right?
Yeah.
Right? And this guy's been there for like last like 30 plus years in the radio industry. So that's going to be a big sort of opportunity to say the least, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you never know, right? I mean, this thing is like you look at certain things and it's like, what's a funny place, man? Like, like, just think about this, right? Like, I started this whole interview thing, in this like late December, and some of the people I've gotten, unreal, right?
Hmm.
I got Solar Sands. If you know him, do you know him?
No, unfortunately.
Subscribers.
Dang.
I got this other guy. He has like over 60, and that was almost a 3 hour interview. This other guy has 12,000, almost a 3 hour interview, right? I've also interviewed this other guy. He has like 300,000. Granted, he doesn't post that many videos anymore, but that kind of like that video has like 300 views, 10 likes, 2 comments in 2 weeks, right? So,
Right.
I mean, again, like, I never thought I'd get those people, but I'm grateful regardless.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And it's very great to when you get those opportunities to have different people on your show,
Yeah,
and to just in general, not even a show, just to do stuff. It's great when you start out and you do that, but
yeah,
over time you're going to have to adapt, and if you want to take it serious someday, you're going to have to figure out a way to stand out amongst other
yeah,
people that do it. It's challenging to stand out, but
yeah,
it's one of the ways that you grow, is kind of standing out and listing off the people that you've spoken with. And once people see those names and see that you've done that, they'll give you a shot.
yeah. It's so funny. I was having a conversation with this guy on Reddit, right? And he's a YouTuber too. And his recent video that he did, over 600,000 views in a month, over 4,000 comments. I DM him. He said, "Hey, I love your work. Let's do something." He said, "I'm not confident in public speaking." I'm like, that's fair. You know what? There can be mistakes in the conversation. It's supposed to be sort of unedited, straight to the point type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he said, "I checked your channel out. Super dope. I'll let you know when I'm ready." I'm like, "Okay, that's great." And I'm like, well, my has my touch, but like, again, you know, you just have to ask. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, who was the one in person that you interviewed so far that was like the nicest person?
There's a lot that come to mind. You get people that are really outgoing and match your energy, and then you get people that are not necessarily grumpy or sad, but it just feels slightly off.
Yeah.
There was one interview that I had with there's a couple, one that hasn't been released yet, but
Yeah.
there was one that I did with, her name is Chris Anthony. And what made it special was I grew up listening to her on the radio
Oh,
and audio dramas. She is the host of one of the longest running audio dramas, known as Adventures in Odyssey. It's a Christian audio drama
yeah.
that's been on the radio since my parents were younger too. And
Yeah.
so I grew up listening to her, and so she was very outgoing and a
Yeah.
great guest to have,
Yeah.
and really had a connection with. It was a great conversation. And there's
Yeah.
been other people that weren't necessarily large or big names, but people who um, kind of were just lost in time, that weren't really doing anything much anymore, who were really, really, really cool to talk to. Um, there's a lot of great people that you speak to when you're a journalist. I mean, that's the whole point of being a journalist, is
Yeah.
speaking to and hearing people's stories.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. All right. So it's interesting you mentioned you being a Christian. Does that sort of, I don't know, does that like play a part in the way you make content, or is that something that's completely separate?
Sure. Well, I don't think when it comes to my faith and what I believe, it's difficult to separate one's belief with what they create.
Yeah.
In many ways, what you believe in your worldview and the way that you live is going to impact your work and what you practice. So,
Yeah.
as a Christian, as a Christ follower, it definitely has impacted my work. It definitely impacts the types of questions. As a Christian journalist, or a Christian who's a journalist, it's it definitely impacts the questions. Um you definitely keep your values close.
Yeah.
And even guests, I mean, as mentioned, Chris Anthony, she was the and is continuing to be the host of the Christian biblical based audio drama Adventures in Odyssey. So
Yeah.
there's been a couple guests that I've had who holds to the same faith that I do, the faith that I do.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily market or promote the show as specifically this is a Christian biblical based podcast. But I'm not afraid or necessarily uh, uh, have a desire to shy away from those types of conversations.
Yeah.
Sometimes they naturally come up, and at times maybe I might be hesitant to talk about it. But
Yeah.
if it's something that you truly love and you truly practice and you believe, ultimately it's something that you shouldn't be afraid to talk about,
Yeah.
much like we're doing now. And
Yeah.
so it definitely impacts the questions, since you asked.
All right.
I preferably I don't want to speak about things that are um like cover things that are in my opinion and what I believe are wrong or evil.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to spread drama or talk about things that are gonna perhaps belittle or hurt someone.
Yeah.
In that sense, I like to focus on topics of growth and growing and challenges and pain. Though I don't, those might not necessarily just be associated to my faith, but it's definitely a major influence. It's what I believe to be true, and I believe those are what make the conversations beneficial. Focusing on those types of things.
Great. 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 Great answer. So, what is your favorite movie and why?
There's a lot of movies. It's hard to pick. There's a lot of great movies. I love film since, of course, I interview people from Hollywood.
Yeah.
I love movies, and I like to get people from recent movies. It can be a bit challenging
Yeah.
doing that. Um, but I prefer and kind of levitate towards comedies. I
Yeah.
do love some serious film, but I can't say no to a good comedy.
Yeah.
There's movies that I love that I will probably only watch once or twice, but then there's some movies that are great that I can watch a lot of the time. When
Yeah.
it comes to categories, comedy, there's a lot. I really enjoy the director, Jared Hess. He directed and wrote Napoleon Dynamite,
Yeah.
Nacho Libre, Masterminds, and he is actually, which some people might not necessarily know, is he's going to be the director and is the director of the new Minecraft movie. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of, I love his films and his writing. I'm very drawn to offbeat, oddball, dry comedy.
Yep.
Chicken Little's a good one. Chicken Little's
Yep.
a great film that I grew up with. Hoodwinked, which I interviewed the director of. Hoodwinked is great.
Yeah.
And serious movies. I mean, you can't say no to the Truman Show
Yeah.
or Shawshank Redemption. I've
Yeah.
seen Shawshank Redemption.
That's
One of my favorite series, one of my favorite movies, which a lot of people like and a lot of people haven't really seen, is The Little Prince. It's a great movie made in 2015.
yes.
It covers a lot of deep subjects that when you're older and you watch,
Yes.
it really hits.
Yeah.
And there's some movies that are really odd and experimental
Yeah.
that are pretty fun. There's one called Taste of Cherry. It was made in 1997, and that one's a great one. That one's a long one. I've only seen it once. I probably won't see it again, but it's a great film. But yeah, there's a lot of great movies out there. I love film, and I like filming, and I like stories.
Yeah.
And so um, journalism in a way covers those stories, and it kind of brings you into this world that's really magical.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Great answers, man. Great answers. Have you seen Tron Legacy?
I have. I really enjoy Tron. I have the soundtrack on my phone.
Yeah.
I grew up playing the Wii game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed. I watched it when I was maybe 15 or 16.
Yeah.
And it's a great series. They're making a new one, which
Yeah.
I'm really excited for.
That's gonna be.
Alrighty.
Hello.
Hello.
We're back. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you're talking about Tron 3.
Yeah.
So do you plan on interviewing some of the people behind the scenes? You know?
Yeah, no, it's always a possibility. It just depends on if people are interested and receptible to being reached out to. There's always a possibility. There's a lot of great people that are behind the movies that are made, not just the actors or the directors, but there's the producers and the writers. There's a lot of great people involved in film from what I've learned and from what I've seen.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Tron, who knows? It's definitely an idea. It's coming out in 2025. It's coming out on May 14th, and so it's coming up very soon. And I'm very excited for the film. It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. So one of the questions that I always ask all my guests this is, how do you deal with criticism, if it's from contemporaries or people on the internet? How do you deal with that? How you process that?
Sure. Well, no, it's a good question. When it comes to specifically criticism, people are very quick to specifically want to be correct. And so some things I might struggle with is thinking, they're wrong, this is right, and wanting to have the higher ground. But what happens is with criticism, it's important to take it and grow from it. Even with mistakes, mistakes can be a good thing at times when it comes to the horrible things that happen in life. Taking everything as a learning opportunity, taking challenges and growing from it, finding ways to adapt. When it comes to criticism, taking what people are saying and find ways to grow, not necessarily to kind of argue back and forth, but if someone says, oh, this isn't good, or oh, this isn't great, take that and say, okay, how can I make it better? How can I make it more receptible? But ultimately continuing to do what you enjoy. So when it comes to podcasting, kind of figure out what you enjoy talking about, what your focus of your show is. When it came to mine, my focus for 2 years was primarily interviewing YouTubers. I never stepped foot into Hollywood. It was just people from YouTube. But over the years, I realized, okay, I want to focus my show purely on talking to people from the entertainment and business world with the focus of educating young people. And so ultimately your conversations will go in the direction that you want. If you want to just kind of have a laid back conversation, then have a laid back conversation. Or if your focus is purely on a said niche. So you're talking with writers and you'll interview writers, or if you want to talk to people about acting, you'll talk to actors. Then also find your niche. So for me, I believe my niche is just kind of educating people about a world of Hollywood. It's talking to actors and directors and seeing how they grew from their things, and it's kind of a subject that's not often talked about. And
Yeah.
so through my show, that's my focus. But
Yeah.
your focus might be something else, maybe the insights as to how things are run and operated. It's definitely important to figure out your niche. A lot of podcasters also say, see what other people are doing. Unfortunately, I surprisingly don't. I don't often go check out other shows or see what the topics are.
Yeah.
I just do what I enjoy doing and just kind of go with the flow. And, some people might get a guest that I was like really wanting.
Yeah.
And then I maybe like, oh, okay. And I don't necessarily try to compete against the next person or get that
Yeah.
same guest. Might be an instance where there was a guest that they spoke to that I was, looking to speak to as well, that I might try to, or I might kind of go check something else. But
Yeah.
kind of sticking within your own sphere, at least for me,
Yeah.
I don't like to necessarily look at other shows per se
Yeah.
all the time, because it can sometimes feel as if it can kind of put me in a mentality that I don't want to, where you're like, oh, I need to beat them. But that's a thing that a lot of people can struggle with, is when they can see a lot of things as a race, and you shouldn't look at things as a race or trying to compete. And so for me, it's important to find that balance. But I definitely think looking at other shows and looking at how other people are doing and taking the criticisms that you get and the things that you're told, and take it not necessarily to heart, but an opportunity to grow and learn.
That's a great answer, man.
Mm-hmm.
Who is or was the most famous person to say, "Hey, man, I really like your work"? Because I went to your website, you listed two people, and I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people of high notability that have said kind things to me, who have been very generous. And yeah, there's two testimonials on my website that I put there.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to update or put anything else. Those ones were ones that I found in some old interviews of mine that I could quote, where some guests were generous enough to say some kind words that I thought it were appropriate to quote.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of great people. I can't think of specifically one of the most famous people to specifically say kind words.
Yeah.
There's been people that one of the biggest persons that I spoke with, who I guess was really sweet and kind, was Luke Wilson.
Yeah.
He is, as of I think right now, the most famous, you can say famous, one of the most, literally the most successful person. A lot of people, journalists, go on to red carpets, and so they can't really answer who was the most famous because they're literally running into everybody.
Yeah.
But Luke Wilson
Yeah.
was I ran into him on set. There was a film being filmed in the air close to my area. And
Yeah.
so we got to work there as backgrounds, and I got to take a photo with Luke and kind of on the spot ask him some questions. And I should have asked him to come onto the show. I should have exchanged my information, but I was too chicken, or it was too of a crazy moment. So I had the opportunity to interview him and record it,
Yeah.
not necessarily for my podcast, but it was a great experience that I credit to my show. And he said a lot of great things. There's people, I don't necessarily actively pursue being told great job. It's gonna happen when you do good. And you might get it, you might not. And if you don't get it, it's not necessarily going to stop you from what you're doing. At least it doesn't necessarily stop me. It's definitely an added bonus
Yeah.
for me when someone it says great work instead of bad job. I take that good work and I like it. Like we like being told that we did good job.
Yeah.
But you take it, and for me, when I'm told good job,
Yeah.
part of me says, if I was told good job for what I did there,
Yeah.
I kind of want to continue to do what I did. That was, that cause that person to say good job. And so when it came to journalism, it wasn't necessarily something I dreamed about doing when I was a kid, but I was told, when I was younger and I was doing it, that I had something for it. Something seemed to work. I
Yeah.
was good with asking questions, and
Yes.
it was just something that kind of clicked. And so
Yeah.
it might click for some people, it might not. But there's a lot of the people that I've spoken to have been very
Yeah.
very kind.
Yes. Yes. I definitely see that. I don't know. I'm gonna bring her name up because she whatever, but it's funny because like I look at certain people, right? Like for example, like you must know who Millie Bobby Brown is, right?
Correct.
Okay. If you had the opportunity to do like an in-depth interview of her or someone like her, would you do it?
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to A-list actors like Millie, um it'd be really cool. It's definitely challenging to get in touch with A-list actors.
Yeah.
When it comes to getting A-list actors, there's so many layers you have to go through. There's their HR,
Yeah.
and the HR, from what I've learned with interviews, is they, um, even though you might be a kind person and really want to talk with them, they care. A lot of them care about the numbers, and they care about um, like who you are. And so when it comes to my show, that's why I spent a lot of years marketing it and kind of designing something so that you could Google the name of the show and it
Yeah.
pops up.
Yes.
You have to get to a point where you're doing that, where you have a name, you have a face, you have a page, you're
Yeah.
actively recording interviews, you
Yeah.
actively have the production up. It's going to take time. It doesn't necessarily happen in one day.
Yeah.
But I would definitely do it. I've a lot of opportunities might be coming their way. A lot of doors have opened, a lot of doors have closed. But it's really fun, and I enjoy speaking to people. I enjoy hearing people's stories,
Yeah.
and I love movies and I love the business industries. And so
Yeah.
people like actors and managers and agents and writers and
Yeah.
set designers and musicians, those things really interest me.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Great. Great answers. All right. So, it's just funny because you brought up that you made music at some point or whatever.
Correct.
Um, who is your favorite musician and why?
Yeah, there's a lot of music. I grew up listening to a lot of music, and so when it comes to music, I have a preference. I really enjoy old school hip hop, and that's definitely influenced a lot of my productions. I haven't released anything as of late. It's been several years, probably just with a busy schedule.
Yeah.
And it's a side hobby. It's not. Yeah, the last time I released was, I believe, in 2022, of December of 2022, which was crazy long ago.
Yeah.
It feels so long. And a lot has happened since then. I can't believe it was since 2022.
Yeah.
But I've surprisingly made money off music, a small amount.
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly, I've made money off something that I don't necessarily enjoy doing all the time, and
Yeah.
I've made nothing off something I do enjoy all the time. But yeah, to answer your question with music, I really enjoy. There's a couple artists. There was one artist I grew up listening to known as Beautiful Eulogy. They're from Portland, and what made them stand out, what made their music stand out, was they Beautiful Eulogy. You implement a lot of different elements to their music, such as water dripping, inhalers, chains moving around. It was very
Yeah.
organic sounding. It's a really cool group. So I really enjoyed their style. There's an artist by the name, who's very successful, Joji. I enjoy his older work. I do enjoy his newer stuff, but there's a year he was producing a lot of music in 2018 that is
Yeah.
not online. It's stuff that you have to find somewhere. It's kind of hidden,
Yeah.
but has a really good style to it. I'm really drawn to experimental. I
Yeah.
like hip hop. I like jazz. I've been getting into folk these past couple of years, and
Yeah.
so what draws music wise is definitely that.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to get some more musicians on my show. I've had a couple musicians, Paufu, which I mentioned earlier. I spoke with the manager of a very, 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 very successful artist years ago, which ended up being one of the best performing interviews, at
Yeah.
least on Spotify.
Yeah.
It was with the manager of a singer by the name of Aurora.
Oh,
I believe she has 14 million monthly listeners. It was great to talk with her manager, not her, but her manager. And so music is really, really close. I enjoy music. I collect records in on the side.
all right.
I enjoy listening to music, and creating music isn't, I'm not the best at it.
Yeah.
It's something that I kind of do on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great answers. Great answers. I'm actually, it's actually kind of the same with me. Like my first real introduction to music was the Tron Legacy soundtrack.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because before that, my brother, for some reason, right back in the day, he bought this Black Eyed Peas The End DVD, which is a great album, by the way. Shout out to them. Uh, and it was from that, I think, I would argue Justin Timberlake's 2020 experience. You must know who he is, right?
Right.
Okay. Great album. And that kind of, and also I would argue my first real introduction to like sort of challenging music is it's kind of a funny story. So this is 2016, and I heard this song on the radio called "Summertime Sadness" by Lana Del Rey, the remix that went crazy on the charts. Forgot the guy's name. Shout out to him. And I developed like a matter, but I loved their music then. That like introduced me to the idea that I could listen to something that's completely out of left field at that time, at least.
Right.
Right? For hip hop, it was Jesus by Kanye, and that record just spoke to me. I was very I had some temper issues back in the day, and that record kind of soothed me. Like this
Mhm.
guy, same way that I do. Granted, he's at a different level of fame, but like, you know, we all have similarities that we can relate to. And just
Right.
grown from I had this experimental phase where like I used to listen to like I still listen to like Aphex Twin, Autechre, Zombie, Bill, Massive Attack, even Mazzy Star to a degree, right? So it just grown
Mhm.
from there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Music's really great.
Yeah. So what's your favorite album of last year?
Yeah, I don't when it comes to music, I haven't listened to a lot of recent artists. I find myself specifically listening to a lot of kind of underground, even like, again, I'm really into records, so I
Yeah,
find myself going into the record store and listening to a lot of music that probably nobody has heard of, or it's just kind of extremely unknown. And so when it comes to last year, I can't really say there's necessarily
yeah,
one that stands out per se. There's a lot of great artists. I don't tend to listen to a lot of
yeah,
the stream artists per se. Um, but there's a lot of really talented artists that are making music right now. Um, Tyler the Creator has a great sound. I enjoy his stuff. But
yeah,
it's I tend to kind of levitate towards kind of unknown people.
yeah. There's actually a couple of people I think you should listen to. Okay,
Mhm.
so there's one guy. All of them are Canadian. Okay, so this one guy named a hip hop artist. He's kind of trap, SoundCloud, hardcore type of vibe. I don't know if you vibe with that, but made some great albums back in the day. He still makes great music, but those two records, Constant Vague, 2014, Red Teenage Melody, 2016, those two albums are classics. All the songs on those records are amazing, different ways. There's another guy named Sean Leon, who is, to me, he's a visionary. I think you should interview him because his perspective on art and music and stuff like that is different level, different,
Hmm.
very different level. So, I mean, one record that he did was 20, I think it was 2023. It was released late December. It's called In Living Memory, and it's a very different record that he usually does. It's like R&B and soul and melodic hip hop. It's a very like lovely record.
Mhm.
So I think, and also another guy, K Tronada. I don't know if you heard of him,
Yeah, I think I
but
might have.
yeah, he's pretty dope too. He's pretty mainstream as well. Yeah, he's pretty mainstream as well. He dropped a record a couple months back in summer. It's one of my favorite albums of the year. So yeah,
That's awesome. I'll have to check those out.
yeah, for sure. And okay. So this last question.
No
Okay,
problem.
uh, who who was your celebrity crush growing up? Who is it now?
Huh.
If you're with someone or not, like
Nah, I don't necessarily have any celebrity crushes for real. Unlike other people. Um, no real crush per se. I don't look up
yeah,
to actors or actresses that way. Um, or anybody necessarily in Hollywood that way.
yeah,
I look at people as really talented and skilled individuals who have found themselves in a really cool industry such as Hollywood.
yeah,
Not everybody can get in that industry.
yeah,
It's very hard industry to get into now,
yeah.
with everything happening. The it's very challenging.
It is.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any crushes specifically that way. There's a lot of actors that I looked up to growing up that I thought were really cool. Um, Robin Williams, I really enjoy his work as I still do.
Yeah,
Jim Carrey.
yeah,
I really enjoyed reading books when I was super young, and unfortunately, it's kind of fallen through. I need to read more. But
yeah,
I was really interested in Captain Underpants. I read that a lot when I was a kid, and so I originally, before I ever started a podcast, I was really wanting to interview and send a letter essentially to Dave Pilkey, who
yeah,
does Captain Underpants, to ask him some questions. And maybe someday that's one of the things I think one guest I really want to have on my show is Dave Pilkey. But it's definitely difficult to track down those people.
yeah,
But yeah, those are kind of the people that I've looked up to, that I've kind of that I'm like, darn, I wish I could do something with them or meet them or talk with them or interview them.
yeah,
But at some point, some point you have to separate the fan to the journalist,
yeah,
because it can kind of interfere.
yeah,
But it's really cool. I get, after every interview I've done, I've always been very excited about the conversation that I had and the
yeah,
person I spoke to.
yeah,
And you kind of have this post excitement, that kind of that rush.
yeah.
Yeah, adrenaline. But then during the conversation, you're very laid back, and it's a great time.
Yeah, sure. For me, I mean, I could spend hours talking about this. But I'm gonna keep it brief, right, for my own sake. I used to have like when I was very young, I used to have like day crushes, right? Like I watch a movie, I see a very beautiful woman, I'm like, whoa, and I just obsess over them for that day, and it'll go away. There was this movie I watched, the Indiana Jones movie with they fight the Nazis. There's this blonde woman that was like on the other side. I'm like, oh wow, and she's still beautiful. But like at that time, when I was at that age, I could not stop thinking about for that day. Another example would be Juno. It's so funny. I was just flipping through the channels when I was very young, and for some reason, I decided to watch this movie for like a couple minutes. I didn't like it. I thought it was boring at the time. And Ellen Page, for some reason, I,
Yeah.
oh my heart. I don't know why, but she did. Uh, no, yeah, but like that's why I mean I'm a big fan of The Last of Us, and Ellie looks like Ellen Page kind of. So
Yeah.
there's that kind of connection. Someone more recent would be someone like Haley Steinfeld. That was the one my brother used to obsess over her back in the day when Enders out and stuff like that. So yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, it is crazy. And Ruby Barneswell as well. When BFG released, I never forget this. I'll tell you the story. Trailer came out in its theater, right? I was watching some movie. I don't know what. I see her. And I'm like, whoa. And then it all came back to me last year. I was wondering, like, where, like, because I rewatched BFG in 2022, I think. I really enjoyed that movie. Even though, like, most people think it's, like, mid or whatever. I really enjoyed it. And for some reason, your video popped up, right? And I watched the whole thing. I'm like, wow. She's still, she's still beautiful, bro.
Yeah, no, it'd be like that.
Yeah, it'd be like that for sure.
It'd be like that.
You watch any sports?
What was that?
You watch any sports?
Oh, not really. I'm not a huge sports guy. Not a huge sports guy. I do like hockey, but I'm not a huge sports guy.
All right. So I don't know. Make me. I cannot say this. So the 2026 World Cup is going to happen next year. Canada's in it. They're hosting some games. Toronto, Vancouver, and if they somehow win it, I hope they do. It would be great if you interview Jesse Marsh because he's the head coach. That'd be great to see on your show.
Yeah, I should definitely. I haven't interviewed a lot of sports people. I think the closest to sports person was a guy who was a boxer and
Yes.
also an actor.
Yeah.
Um, but I haven't interviewed a lot of sports people. That's one thing I've been always wanting to try.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on the pod. I know we had some technical difficulties, but I'll try my best to like keep it as unedited as possible.
Well, sometimes those edits are good. They're very. I edit my podcasts. After I'm done my interviews, I literally take them and I sit through and I re-listen to the entire thing again, and
Yeah,
I record with my camera.
yeah,
I upload the videos on YouTube and I upload the audio versions on everything else. And so
yeah,
I go through. I have a process with my interviews. What I upload online isn't actually the conversations in general. There's a lot of stuff that happens before
yeah,
and a little bit of stuff that happens at the end that
yeah,
aren't shown because they're kind of a private conversation with the guest. We usually get ready to go.
yeah,
You will at some point, if you ever continue it, you will have kind of a rhythm of
yeah,
what you do. For me, I always introduce myself to my guest
yes,
and kind of say, before I interview you, before I ask you about you, I'll kind of explain a little bit myself. So I kind of go into
yeah,
that. You have to find that balance too, because
yeah,
what I learned earlier on was in my interviews, I would spend a lot of time talking about things that weren't necessarily my guest. And so you got to find that balance of when doing interviews as a journalist,
yeah,
find the time to, write down your notes however you find it best to grow and then respond to what they said. And it's definitely a process when it comes to journalism, when it comes to conversations. It's very much a going back and forth, and it's kind of like improvisation because you have no idea what your guest is going to say. You
yeah,
have no idea what the journalist is going to ask, and
yeah,
so you kind of just have to rhythm and work around with it. I
yeah,
do recommend I do recommend going kind of figuring your stuff out because that's very helpful when it comes to
yeah,
being a journalist is kind of understanding how how your stuff is gonna go.
yeah,
And what one thing you could do is if you want to be genuine and raw, there's a lot of things that you can actually do with it, and that's a good idea because a lot of people aren't genuine and raw with their episodes. They just edit them like kind of like what I do.
yeah,
But that would be kind of an interesting approach, and you can even let your guests know prior before interviewing them. Like we'll literally start the minute you come in. We're gonna start. I know some people do that. I'm not a huge fan of it.
yeah,
I know a lot of people that literally the minute the guest joins, they're questioned, and it's like, woo. I'm always into letting the little bit of like a breather, but
yeah,
that could be what you could sell yourself as is just really spontaneous
yeah,
questioning, but it might be a bit overwhelming for some people.
yeah. So, yeah, I thank you for that, bro. Thank you for the advice. Um, man, that was fun. That was a fun
Yeah, it was a
conversation.
great conversation. I appreciate you reaching out. It was great.
Yeah,
This is
I
I think
wanted
this yeah, this
I was busy with work. Now things are kind of opening up now, so Yeah. It's funny because I sent you the link to my channel. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on it or?
Yeah, I would let me pull it up. Let me find it here. Just give me a quick moment. First, um, get a profile picture,
Yeah.
change, add a name,
Yeah.
add description about your channel,
Yeah.
add a banner,
Yeah.
um, change the thumbnails.
Yeah.
Um, I would update your titles of your videos so people know what they're clicking.
Yeah.
Um, market yourself, brand yourself.
Yes.
When I specifically look at this, I go, oh, Renegade. Who is Renegade? What is this? And so when I press more, I don't get any about, so I'm not necessarily sure what I'm looking at. But when I press one of these videos, I'm like, oh, it's a podcast. That makes more sense. But what you have got down really well is you've got a good description under these as well. You kind of go into the conversation.
Yeah.
Um, my strategy when it comes to my show, I just for kicks and like it's not necessarily the best approach. I literally copy if they're very well known. I copy the description. I used to go into big depth, like I'm talking to this blank blank blank, but I began to simplify it, and now I literally just copy the a portion of like the beginning portion of their Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
So for the interview with
Yeah.
Louis Romano, who's from Ratatouille, I just include a portion of his wiki so it tells who this guest is, and then after that I have um my website and where they can find the show.
Yeah.
Um, timestamps. That's something that I got into just this last year.
Yeah.
Add chapters so people can go to certain portions they want to listen to.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, to answer your question, that's what I would do. I would. It takes time, but sit down, ask yourself, what is my show?
Yes.
Because to be perfectly honest, that will be very, 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 very helpful in getting more guests on your show.
Yes.
They'll look at your page, they'll look at what you're doing, and they'll be like, this looks, whoever is running this has put a lot of effort
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
But that only depends on if you're wanting to do it professionally. If you're not wanting to do it professionally or just kind of a fun hobby, you don't have to go way out and beyond. But simply coming up with a good cover page, like when people come to
Yeah.
your channel, they definitely want to know what who this person is.
Yes.
That's going to definitely be helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for that. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, no, yeah, it was great. It was great to talk, and I wish you all the best. It's a great it's a great industry to be in. It can be challenging, but it's a fun pastime hobby that I do, and I really enjoy it. It's a great it's not necessarily a business or anything, but it's a hobby that I take a lot of seriousness in.
Yes.
I don't invest a lot of money into it. I just do the interviews. Don't ever pay for an interview. Don't
Yeah.
ever pay for an interview. Um, that's not real. I think there's been one person that asked me, and I'm like, what? I think it was a donation to their charity,
Oh,
which was, to be fair, but I was just like, oh, but like it just, yeah, you don't ever pay for an interview. There's a lot of things that you'll learn if you ever pursue it. It's not necessarily for everybody, but I think once you do it, you'll see and you'll learn and you'll grow.
thank you. Thank you for that.
No problem. Awesome. Well, you have a great rest of your day. Thank you again for inviting me on. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I had a great time. It was great to meet you. And best of luck with your studies at
Yeah.
school, and best of luck pursuing broadcasting. It's a tough job to be in. I surprisingly am not in any I've never gone to any college or university for journalism or even broadcasting. So it's I don't know what they teach you. I've just been doing this for experience. I've done it all experientially with not really any proper post-secondary education, except maybe some institutes, some little conferences.
Yeah.
But it's broadcasting is a bit challenging, but definitely consider pursuing political journalism. I would probably stay if you're looking for a profitable career. I definitely recommend sticking in political journalism
Yeah,
and not even stepping close to entertainment journalism. At least do it as a hobby.
yeah,
But I'm not what I'm doing. I don't think is really, maybe I'm just kind of downplaying it, but I don't really think it's going to go anywhere. I mean,
okay,
it's opened a lot of great doors. I won't downplay that. Doing interviews with people has opened a lot of great doors and has helped a lot of things. It
yeah,
looks really cool on a resume
yeah,
when you have different people you speak to.
yeah,
But entertainment journalism is definitely a gamble, and
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to, how I say, it's hard to come home. It like going home to your hypothetical family that you may have and your kids, and laying down a delicious roast and saying, this roast here we're about to eat is provided by entertainment journalism. Like, it doesn't really work that way.
yeah,
It's hard to say that. But
yeah,
some people, like the people that I've spoken to, actors, it
yeah,
seems like a career that you can never, it's like, what? But some people get it.
yeah,
And maybe it might work for you,
yeah.
for entertainment, at least, entertainment journalism.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
No problem. Awesome. Well, you have a great day. It's great to talk.
Great to talk.
No talk.
See
Awesome.
you.